So China is yet again provoking, just to bully and push around, a military-grade laser fired towards an Australian aircraft, not as an attempt to down it, but, of course, a laser in a pilot's eye, well, could blind the pilot and something bad could happen. That's why it's a provocation. That's why it is something that is aggressive. And to talk about this and a whole lot more is Michael Shoebridge, who's the Director of Defence Strategy and National Security at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. It's a very good business card. Hello, Michael. Lovely to talk to you.
You too, Bob.
So, obviously, this is not point of no return, war around the corner, all of that stuff. But what does it say about China's capacity to go that little bit too far in doing what it does in international waters?
Well, Paul, you're right. This is a deliberate move from Beijing. So Beijing knows that we're in a hothouse environment here leading up to an election. They know there's a debate about, maybe the Chinese want a more positive relationship. And they've chosen right this time to send 2 Chinese Navy vessels close to Australia, right through the Torres Strait. And on their way, they've given the commanders the ability to use military-grade lasers to damage systems on Australian military aircraft and to potentially damage the eyesight or blind the crews. So they haven't stepped back and said, hey, we're looking for a new way with this relationship. They've doubled down on their aggression. That's what it tells us.
So obviously much has been read into the Ukrainian situation and it was very poorly reported towards the end of last year. Oh, that's all right. Hopefully we can work that out. So if you guys can drop the fader, work out the audio, and I'll follow up in a second here. But here is the Prime Minister talking about that provocation.
It was a dangerous act. These sorts of things can disable such aircraft and put those on that aircraft at great risk. So I thought it was a reckless and irresponsible act, and it should not occur. Now, we're raising those issues directly through the diplomatic and defence channels, but what I can tell you is the way Australia stands up to coercion and bullying and intimidation and threats is what my government has been doing.
For his part, Peter Dutton again showing that the posture of the government, in my view, it's where they need to be. We'll get Michael's view in a sec.
It's completely unacceptable. It can result in the blindness of the crew, can obviously result in damage of equipment. It's military grade. It's a very aggressive act, and that's why it's right that we call it out.
Now, we're just working on Michael's connection right now. So my view is that the reason Ukraine matters, apart from all of the reasons that it matters in Europe, is because very poorly reported in the wider media, but we talked about it here, that towards the end of last year, China said that they would help defend Russia defending its territory. Well, they think that the Ukraine is part of their country. Therefore, it's not taking, it's getting it back. And Russia says that they would defend China with their territory, and they think that Taiwan is part of China. Therefore, it's not an incursion, it's taking it back. That's why all of these little tectonic plates are worth talking about here. But Michael, again, when we see that level of provocation, when we see something way further down the line when it comes to Russia, how important is what I just talked about there, about people understanding the sides of all of this, that Russia and China are not sitting out each other's problems, they're basically promising to reinforce each other, which collectively puts them toe-to-toe, size and capacity with anything the West can come up with?
Well, we should take it very seriously, and we should take them as we find them with their behaviour and their words. So Xi and Vladimir Putin have said they will act together, and we should expect that they will do so because that's what we're seeing. So this isn't a time to try and explain away the aggression we're seeing near the Torres Strait from the Chinese military. This is a time to recognise this is the China we're dealing with. And all these voices, some of them in business, some of them former political figures who are saying, you misunderstand China. We can have a lovely relationship with this regime. how can they explain this deliberate intimidation and dangerous action that we've seen here just in the last week?
Well, also what I find quite bizarre in the sort of alternative universe being pushed about, you can't bring this up, you can't have a conversation. There is a once in a century event, but certainly for all of us, the only time in our lifetimes that something that got out of control in China, and China, remember, they decided ban the domestic flights to not spread the virus, but the international ones can keep going. And countries like Australia said, well, hang on, we just want some accountability. What happened, right? Not you released it, you sent it around. It wasn't accusatory. And for simply trying to hold this country to the standards that many of those who wish to appease it claim is their end goal, we got punished. So that's what I find strange is people think again, oh, yeah, it's just 1997. It's the 2008 Olympics. No, what happened to millions of people affected by COVID around the entire planet and the fact that we can't still cross state borders in our country?
Paul, I think you're making the point that how is it people look past this behaviour from Beijing? We shouldn't look past it. We need to take it seriously. If you're in Ukraine right now, you're not looking past the behaviour of Vladimir Putin.
Correct.
And in that same way, we can't look past the behaviour of Xi. So when is it enough to see that it's a problem? Is it when an RAAF aircraft crashes because of the dangerous use of weapons on board Chinese military systems? So I think we're at the point now where there's clarity for the public, and we need to see clarity in policy and action from whoever wins this next election.
Yeah, good to talk to you, Michael. I'm glad that somebody smarter than I at least thinks I'm in the right area. Thank you, Michael. Do appreciate it. Michael Shoebridge there. Good to talk to him.